whether it's in person or online. Okay, this is possibly I'm just doing double check on whether this is an offensive thing to say. I don't think it is. If I ever say something that seems offensive to you, it's probably because I'm an ignorant jackass and not actually malicious or harmful. So please let me know if I say something. People have done that. They've said, you know, when you said da 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 da, I didn't take that well. And I learned something. So I'm just putting that out there. That goes for everything that I say or do ever, not just the next thing I'm gonna say, which is that I think that one of the biggest challenges in diagnosis is the amount of time that is wasted at the beginning getting into enough rapport that we actually are settled in enough to really get the lowdown. And when I say really get the lowdown, I don't necessarily mean the verbal story. I mean the actual glimpse of somebody's color, sound, odor, and emotion in what's called a golden key moment. The concept of the golden key moment has come in and out of explicit teachings in the 5-element tradition. I sometimes hear people saying that diagnosis is based on the client's color, sound, odor, and emotion, and then ending the sentence there. Diagnosis is based on the client's color, sound, odor, and emotion during a golden key moment. That was Worsley's words for it. Basically, a moment when you're really showing, when you're actually showing up as you are. Not when you're showing up in your various modus operandi on the surface, because that can come and go. There are layers of color, sound, odor, and emotion. We know about this because we've talked about the withins, for instance. And often what happens when Worsley would say, oh, no, no, my dear, how marvelous, you're incorrect, what a marvelous opportunity. That is actually the second within that you're seeing. Or sometimes it's just because the second within is usually the person's kind of persona. It's their way level. It's their do, I'll play you a song layer. They're docking maneuvers, kind of. And a lot of time can be spent with somebody on those outer layers. So how do we be the invitation for people to be able to be who they are? I really love Nikki Bilton's comment about diagnosis. She said, get into the deepest possible rapport you can with the client and then figure out how you did it. That's the Constitution, basically. The most radically honest response is, it depends on timing. Sometimes there's more, sometimes there's less. And so one of the things that I have is I have taken on Bob Duggan's doorknob practice, which is that when he lets go of the doorknob after having shut the door to the treatment room, that is a moment of radical dropping of everything and coming to presence right now. I then, if I need to, or if the client needs to, or both, we'll take a moment when we're both sitting together and say, let's take a moment just to settle for a few moments. And I'll do my work right in front of them. If I think that I am, you know, the days when things are moving like this, and I'm taking a call, like, if I think I am not in a worthy state, a fit state to be that deep welcome with them, I will sit right there, right in front of them and breathe. Invite them to breathe with me. Feel my heaviness, feel my connection to the ground. So until I am in that place of, oh, okay, I am connected not just to heaven and earth. My heart is connected to the big heart. I can welcome you. So it's great if it's before, but I'll depending on what's going on, I'll do it right then and there. I will also, I think this is something I really do want to make sure I'm getting across to new practitioners, because I've been at this for what, 30 years? This is still the case. There will be times right in the middle of an intake where I am so deeply moved or triggered or whatever it is that's going on that I will say to the client then and there, wow, what you are saying is really intense stuff. And they usually know that. They're talking about intense stuff. And the fact that I'm a human being, they're cool with that. I may say to them, I could use a moment just to sit with how strongly your story is affecting me. And just be with that. Just reground between heaven and earth, reconnect my heart to the big heart, and breathe open enough space for the majesty of what goes on in this world. Some of which it's going to stretch your heart bigger. So I will take self-care moments midstream whenever I need them. It's kind of an act of integrity, both inner and outer. And I have never had a client object to that. I haven't instead felt as though the clients were like, wow, okay, somebody actually gets it enough that they need to take a breath. Just hearing about it. And I'll take that moment, I'll take that time, and go, whew, ha, I might shed a tear. It's not unprofessional. To me, unprofessional would be stuffing it, stiffening, dissociating, turning myself into a machine, or in any way being less of a place where the other person can show up and be met. Yeah. Thank you for that. That was a nice pitch right over the plate. I am also a student of Ted Kapchuk and was moved deeply in my studies by his speaking about Tong Shen Ming, which is said to be the highest form of diagnosis and the highest form of treatment in Chinese medicine. In various classics, it's not in just one place. They have the 3 levels of the practitionerhood. And in some, the first level is the artisan, the workman level, and you work through palpation and questions. And then the next level is the artisan and its diagnosis through palpation and questions. And then the next level is the artisan and its diagnosis, but is pulse taking. But the sagely level of diagnosis is said to be Tong Shen Ming. And that is also the sagely level of treatment, is Tong Shen Ming. All too often in English, this is translated as the sage sees and knows, but it is absolutely not a seeing with the eyes. Tong is interpenetration. An interpenetration, Elizabeth Rochat de la Vallée says, so complete that the knower and the known are one. Shen, I think we all know this word. This is the awareness, the consciousness that pervades the heart. Ming is the radiance. So what we're saying is that diagnosis is the interpenetration of the radiance of the heart. In other words, you just get it. But the old hippie novel, Stranger in a Strange Land, that gave rise to the word grok, to really grok something, to grok someone, to actually get them. That's Tong Shen Ming. And it is sagely connection with others. I can't claim to be teaching that, but I can claim to be partway up the mountain and working at it and sharing what I have along those lines, as I'm sure is the case of most teachers, right? We're halfway up the mountain to sagehood, maybe not even halfway, I could say, and moving towards that as best we can, passing that on as best we can. And the same with Tong Shen Ming, as far as that being the highest form of treatment. To connect with someone from the heart. And when I say the heart, I mean the heart, right? Because there's only one Shen, really. One light coming through all of our hearts. This also I learned from Ted Kapchuk, that the light streaming through me, my heart, is the same light that's streaming through you, your heart. And just like stained glass windows or even squares on a computer, many different colors, same light is passing through all the images. So without question, what we are doing our best to do by various means, by incredibly varied means, is be healing every step of the way. If I ever run a healing school, and I might when I find the perfect administrator, I would call it the Me First School of Global Healing. Because what we're working with here is the principle of gan ying, or resonance, meaning, how can I invite you to Tong Shen Ming? How can I invite you to a connection from heart, the big heart, unless I'm there first and radiating that in order to meet there. That is what's called greater Ganying. Greater Ganying is the art of making heart connection with the client for the sake of both diagnosis and healing, because in that moment, they're really inseparable. It's a good feeling, to put it mildly, to feel like you're looking at somebody and they're looking at you, and you feel like the same light that's looking at you is the same light that's looking. And then there is what's called lesser Ganying, which is about 5 elements diagnosis. You could say the greater Ganying, which is heart connection, is about how do we meet in that place that's exactly the same in everybody. There's only one heart, only one heart. And then lesser Ganying is how do we meet and find health together? How do we promulgate health together in the ways in which we're actually not all the same? What is reassuring for you is a disaster for me because I wanted sympathy. I'm having a hard time and you go, you can do it because you're water and you think I am too. And I'm like, hey, Amr, I said I'm having a hard time. You're supposed to say that's terrible. Oh my God, that's horrible. It's so hard what you're going through. And then when you're going through a hard time, I said, and you're like, oh man, it's really rough out there. And I say, oh my God, yeah, it's so rough. And you're like, hey, I'm water. You're supposed to reassure me. You're supposed to say, you've got what it takes. Greater Ganying is where do unto others, where you would have others do unto you, makes totally sense because there's only one person here really. Lesser Ganying is healing in the realm where do unto others as you would have others do unto you is a disaster. You really got to hang with this person. and feel for the texture of their individual constitution, not just the light that's coming through it. So I'm up for both. There are 3 dantian, 3 cinnabar fields. One in here, where the, like if you went in from the third eye and the crown and you met in the middle there, which represents wisdom and the connection to heaven. There's a cinnabar field here in the middle, a dantian, a middle dantian in the middle of the chest, which represents compassion and humanity. And there's a lower dantian, a cinnabar field down a few inches below the navel, but inside. And that is more about power and represents connection to the earth. Gotta love them all. So, however, when working in a healing domain, okay, how to say, everything I'm saying is not the truth. I hope to get to about 80%, you know, that everything I say is at least 80% true. And then you have to figure out which 80%. Even that may or may not be so. So please know that I am speaking from where I stand and sharing it, that's all. Martial arts, very appropriately, works from the lower dantian because it's earthly, power, survival, all that kind of stuff. And that's marvelous. Theory and wisdom and understanding, working from the heavenly and the universal, that's great. When we are in a healing domain, to me, it makes most sense to be working from the middle dantian, the one that corresponds with humanity. Why is this expeditious, especially in the situation that you are speaking of? If I am coming from a lower dantian tradition, which often happens in healing, people are like, healer as martial artist, fighting the illness and like transmitting. I mean, there's a whole kind of, it's very effective. However, it's essentially martial arts. And if that's the way we're working, then we need to put up shields. We need to cultivate our power. We need to affect the other person in a particular way. It's a martial arts thing. I don't work that way. It is not my understanding that Tong Shen Ming works that way. Tong Shen Ming is a middle dantian, compassion-based healing model in which the knower and the known are one. This only works out well if I am tapped into the big heart, the big Shen, the thing that's like, I mean, I often will feel it, you can, like, okay, I am trying to make this not take long, but let me see if I can. Make a fist. Your heart is a muscle about the size of a fist, occasionally about as tight. Take that fist, put it in the middle of your chest. Notice if there are any places in your chest that resemble a fist. Don't tighten them on purpose, but just notice. And make invitation, not push, not an order, not even something as strong as an intention. Make invitation to that which is fist-like in your chest to begin to soften, maybe 3%. And as that 3% comes in, you can then consider another 3%. And after that, you could consider another 3%. When our heart is open, Heart, not heart mediator, not the achy breaky thing, but the heart, the place that is a receptor site for all radiance and all consciousness. When our heart is open, it's like the sun in the middle of our chest. There are many practices that build lower dantian. For illness, healer is martial artist. This is a qigong, this is a neigong really, for development of middle dantian healership. How open is my heart? Not my heart mediator. It's not about vulnerability. It's not about personal connection. It's not about, do you love me? How open is my heart, my receptor site for a radiance that I do not manufacture, but that comes from beyond me? How open is the back of my heart? In fact, from teacher Li Junfeng, who I think is one of the finest examples of what the human race can be. Hands clasped together like this, in front of the heart. This is an opening for the back of the heart. Move your shoulders one at a time backwards, not like a uni shoulder. It's not a uni shoulder. So you can feel the back starting. If there's tightness in the back of the heart, which often there is. Oh, and teacher Lee says, what completes this qigong is, think how cute you look while you do this. That, yes, exactly. That little quirk of a smile that comes when you think how cute you look, and then shake it out. Yeah. The more we are open in the heart, the more we actually have space in our chest for something that's like the sun. Check it out. Do you have room in your chest for something that's like the sun? What do you need to do in order to have room for something in your chest that is like the sun? When the answer is, I got a lot of room for something that's like the sun, then first thing you can do is drink it up all through your being. Soak it up. Soak up that radiance. Inside, let everything in you bask in that sun, including the parts of you that are hurting, that are small, that are tense, that are afraid. Healing comes when illness returns to the heart, when the heart ministers. When I am in the state of having a heart that is open, not heart mediator, a heart that is open, and I am drinking in that radiance, and I am allowing it to fill every seat in the house. And why not? This is our natural state, to be open in the heart, connected to all radiance, connected to the big, 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 big sun. My sun does not have to shine alone. Connected to that big sun, radiating through my whole being, filling every seat in the house. There is no room for bad energy coming in from somebody else. I don't have to fight it. I'm like a full electron shell. I'm not going to be covalently bonding all over the place. It's okay. It's all right. I can be in the presence of some massively toxic stuff or some wrenching, horrific grief. I can be in the presence of things that, I'm not saying I don't have emotions about some of them. I do, but I have those emotions without loss of heart. I feel it. It's moving through me. It's moving to a big space. It's in the process of transformation of virtue, which we can talk about after the break. And I don't have to be afraid. The heart mediator is personal vulnerability and personal bonding. You know, there's some people I might not want to get cuddly with. But those very people that I wouldn't actually consider in a state where I'd want to get cuddly with them are exactly the people with whom I want to have an open heart and be soaking up that radiance on a me first basis, so that I am also then able to share it and create a space known as us, where I can see and feel and acknowledge some pretty rough stuff that might be going on without needing to shut down or shrink away. Does this take practice? Yes. Is the practice really fun? Yes. That's why I do it. Party girl. I love Heiner Fruehauf's translation of the phrase gan dong, which could be translated as education, but it is the state of learning that takes place only when the heart is moved. That's my aspiration. And I thank you guys so much for joining me in that kind of classroom. I feel you.